Well, Kamaru Usman may have lost to Leon Edwards, but he believes he's still the superior boxer. Never mind that it was a brutal loss, cause many people are still reeling from Edwards' surprise victory over Usman in their welterweight championship rematch at UFC 278. But now, he's got the chance to prove it to the world, as he faces Rocky next year. Keep watching for all the deets. First up, they definitely need to run it back. After losing 3 of the first 4 rounds and looking like he was on his way to winning the 5th and the fight itself, Edwards delivered the head kick heard round the world, putting the Nigerian Nightmare out cold, with less than a minute remaining in the fight. This was no doubt an unexpected ending, and one of the biggest upsets for sure. Not to mention, it was an incredible comeback for the new champion. Still, it's difficult to deny the finish could be considered a fluke. After all, this was Edwards and Usman's second fight. Usman won their first fight by majority decision on the preliminary event that streamed on UFC Fight Pass in December 2015. Both men have gone a long way in the 7 years since. Before getting knocked out at UFC 278, Usman was perhaps the most dominating MMA fighter in the world. Since that initial bout with Usman, Edwards has gone undefeated in 11 fights too. And don't get us wrong, the way that head kick was set up was absolutely brilliant, and no one can take that away from Edwards. But could he get a result like that again? That's the big question here. No worries though, because it looks like they'll get the opportunity to settle the score, as the UFC is trying to arrange a rematch between the two in the United Kingdom at the start of the year. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Up next, Usman hasn't lost his self-confidence one bit. The former champ recently told TMZ Sports that regardless of that result, he's still the best fighter in the world at 170.
To be honest with you, I think I am the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with what Islam just did this last weekend.
He even went so far as to claim that even Edwards knows who the superior fighter is between the two of them.
Leon and I know who the best welterweight in the world is.
Does Leon know that you're better than him?
Oh, he knows.
Yeah,
he knows.
It's no joke that this is a big showing of confidence from Usman, but only time will tell whether he is accurate in his assessment of becoming the finest welterweight in the world. Based on his record before that loss though, we're thinking that those chances are pretty great. Moving on, London seems like the perfect place. In an interview with Adam Catterall of BT Sport, UFC President Dana White stated that the promotion's organizing a major event in London next year. Edwards, who lives in Birmingham, England, is of course going to headline the show. White hasn't yet announced his opponent, but come on, a rematch with Usman would make sense given how the first bout went. It's not easy losing your 19-fight winning streak or 5 straight successful championship defenses. What's more, the Nigerian was in command of the fight right up until the knockout. He looked to be on his way to a judge's decision after dominating rounds 2, 3, and 4. And hey, Leon refuses to fight Kamaru any place other than the United Kingdom. He's the champ now, and the fight's going to be on his terms, even though Dana isn't normally a fan of stadium fights. Now that Edwards is champion, he sees a golden chance in the UK. Most fans would understand a fighter walking away from the spotlight after such a devastating defeat. But we all know that the Nigerian Nightmare isn't your typical fighter. Instead, the former champ has used this time to once again get ready to reclaim the welterweight title, with the trilogy fight going back to Edwards' home ground. Usman feels he'll have as big of a home advantage as Leon Edwards. The Nigerian Nightmare, in an interview with TMZ Sports, even admitted that he may have more fans in England than Rocky.
50-50?
No, I think I have more fans in there than he will.
Okay.
You know, but it is what it is.
Next up, Leon Edwards feels Usman will change his strategy for their next fight. The current UFC welterweight champion believes his opponent would return to his wrestling origins. This bad of a knockout has quite the long-term effect on someone, and he might just go full wrestler. He's not going to risk striking with anybody anymore, or at least that's what Leon says. He thinks we're going to see boring Usman again, who grapples and holds his opponents against the cage. But then again, it's up to the current champ to work his way around that. What's more, it'll be interesting to see how Kamaru takes on the challenge. So, both Edwards and Dana want the welterweight champion's first title defense to take place at a stadium in the United Kingdom, and the Wembley Stadium in London is the most likely one. But Leon has also mentioned Villa Park in his hometown of Birmingham as a possible location for his next fight. Moving on, let's see what Edwards had to say about the last fight. While admitting that the altitude in Salt Lake City had a role in his poor performance, Edwards credited his Hail Mary victory to coach Dave Lavelle's motivating post-fight statement before the final round. The Brit reiterated refuted a previous claim about the fight being one of the worst performances of his career, while maintaining Usman is past his prime as a fighter. The altitude must have really played a part, because Leon felt like his body just wasn't reacting. He knew what he wanted to do, but his body was so slow to respond, even though he said that he was trying really hard. What's more, Rocky believes that's the best version of Kamaru we're going to see, so if Leon can defeat him once, he can do it again. We don't know how true that is, especially since Edwards was being dominated throughout the fight. If no head kick comes the next time, is he really going to get the same result he so desperately wants? As we mentioned before, while the head kick was super impressive, it was also perfect timing and perfect luck. These two things are hard to recreate in an unpredictable sport like MMA. Next up, Michael Bisping discusses why he won't be surprised if Leon wins again. Michael Bisping believes Edwards will retain the welterweight belt when he fights Kamaru Usman for the third time, and he's not the only one who thinks so, that's for sure. Bisping teased the upcoming trilogy fight in a video posted to his YouTube page. It's not how fighters start, but how they end their fights, according to The Count. Given this, the UFC Hall of Famer has announced his support for the Jamaican English fighter in the rematch. The former middleweight supports Leon's guess too. Usman is going to be heavy on the wrestling this time, but he still thinks the current champ can pull it off. Coming up next, Justin Gaethje knows there's no giving the Nigerian Nightmare any advice right now. We mean, let's face it, Justin Gaethje is no stranger to overcoming adversity. This past summer, Gaethje attended UFC 278 in Salt Lake City, Utah, to support his good friend and teammate Kamaru Usman. Unfortunately for the outstanding combo of Trevor Whitman students, Usman wasn't able to retain his UFC welterweight championship, and sadly, all of Gaethje and Usman's losses have been finished. If his teammate is any indication of how to grow from defeat, a fighter of Usman's caliber should definitely be okay with the pressure of being champion off his shoulders. And hey, he has Gaethje backing him, and he's going to chase that feeling once more of holding that belt. But there's another interesting thing that he said, and that was even though they were both in their prime, the clock is ticking. They're on the downfall of their career, and neither of the two want to keep fighting when they're 40. So whatever they want to achieve, it has to be soon. And from what we've seen from Usman's many videos after the knockout, he seems high in spirit and ready to go even right now. That's definitely a good sign. Finally, let's talk about how Dana White wants Colby Covington and Khamzat Chimaev on the same card. Well, Dana has said that he wants Boris to face Colby Covington as the co-main event of the Hype Trilogy fight.
I think the co-main event for that should be Khamzat versus Colby.
I agree with you.
Cool. Let's book it.
All right,
Is
I'm on it.
Is that confirmed?
I'll get it done.
And what a card this would be. After all, Covington and Chimaev are two prominent fighters at 170 pounds who have yet to face one another. And to add to the flair, Chimaev's still undefeated and regarded as one of the most dangerous prospects in MMA. Look at what he did to Kevin Holland, man. That was absolutely brutal. And now, another big statement victory would place him in line for the next title shot. When asked whether he was interested in pitting him against Covington as the co-main event in the UK next year, White told MacLife he was. So, if both those fights were to take place, it would no doubt be the biggest event in UK MMA history. A real barn burner, and safe to say, we just can't wait. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Kamaru Usman can get his belt back? And if so, where will that leave the welterweight division? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see ya in the next one.